Hello and welcome to Almost 30 Podcast.
Hi, everybody. It's time to rock. I'm
It's
glad you're here. It's
time to
Lindsay
wrap.
and Lindsay and Krista. Welcome to the show. We interview, we do solo episodes, and sometimes we do a little AMA.
hmm
And we love those because we get questions from you all, whether it's about any old thing or a very specific topic.
AUA, ask us anything. Oh,
Oh my
I know
God.
we've been wrong this whole
Oh
time.
my God.
Yes, we have other amazing AMAs that we've done in the past on general topics, whether it's relationships, health and wellness. We really use this as a place to expand upon the things that you're asking us in the DMs. So having that conversation with you on the pod. And today's a special one. We are talking about microdosing. So
Yes.
I did an episode on soul manifestation with microdosing a few months ago at the midpoint of my microdosing journey. And I
Mhm.
wanted to share more about what microdosing is, what it does to the brain, how you can use it for manifesting, some of the resources I found helpful, my protocol, etc. But today, Lindsay and I are going to be talking about our experience microdosing because we both were microdosing
Mhm.
at the same time. We overlapped for a little bit, but we actually haven't talked much about what we've felt or what we've experienced. And it's been a wild journey. So we'll talk about our experience and then we'll also answer some questions. So we got questions from our Q&A. So we'll do a Q&A round to make sure that we cover any questions that you have or some of the things that we were hearing over and over again from the
Mhm.
community related to microdosing psilocybin.
Yeah, so what originally like drew you to microdosing? Because I feel like you started and then I think I started like a month later.
I
What was
think
like the impetus?
I just am always a person that wants to try everything in life. And it's just how I roll, whether it's like, 7 weeks in a group therapy setting or ayahuasca or, other things. And so I was just always curious to try. And I didn't feel like when we had our ayahuasca ceremony, I felt much.
Mhm.
And I've talked about that before. We did 4 nights sitting with ayahuasca, and I didn't really have that much of an experience. And so I wanted to see if this could be something that could be helpful. And then I really read a lot about the science behind it. And I really like Michael Pollan's work. He's incredible. And so when I learned about how it can really prevent or really promote neuroplasticity and your ability to really rewire your brain from this level that might not be accessible later in life, because your
Mhm.
brain forms in your 20s and it's pretty much stuck there unless you're leveraging resources to promote neuroplasticity. So the research was really compelling, and I was just like, I want to try this. And then Justin was doing it for years, and it's really, really helped him be more
Mhm.
creative, be more like light, be more fun.
Mhm.
And so I saw a really beautiful difference in him during his
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I initially like just heard about it for the creative benefits. So I was excited about that and the fact that it wasn't a psychedelic experience per se. You don't exactly know you're not tripping in
Mhm.
any capacity. I enjoyed that because I don't like to feel. I actually do like mushrooms, but I don't like to feel that for a long period of time. Um, and I was just curious. Yeah, I think just the curiosity kind of struck me, and then the opportunity to start microdosing just kind of came into my field and through you and a healer. And so, yeah, it was the perfect time, and I kind of realized in retrospect that it was the perfect time. It was the period leading up to, I guess, it was like I started around when I think I got engaged, or like around
Mhm.
that time ish, maybe a little bit after, and then did it for 6 months. Um, and so it was a beautiful, um, yeah, just a beautiful amplification of what I was kind of moving through and the changes
Mhm.
that I was making and experiencing. And it allowed me to almost like, yeah, be in like the higher expression of everything that was happening. Cause there's always like the shadow and the light of everything. And it can be easy during like life changes to be like, oh God, what's happening? To hold on for dear life. And I
Mhm.
think for me, microdosing allowed me to like really loosen my grip, to be super present to what was here and just how like beautiful life is, and to
Mhm.
not create like self created friction everywhere I went. Um, so yeah, like I had these unexpected benefits. I was
Mhm.
just kind of going and being like, I hope I like create something groovy,
Mhm.
which happened. But it was, kind of the other that allowed me to experience parts of myself that I hadn't in a while.
Mhm. And so for anyone listening that doesn't know what microdosing is really when you take a subperceptual dose of psychedelic medicine. So this could be LSD, this could be psilocybin, meaning that the dose is so low that it's beyond your ability to perceive it. So it will not feel like a trip. It doesn't feel like the movies where you're seeing, the walls melt. You're really not gonna have a psychedelic experience. You're just gonna feel like a lift in mood or, other things that we can talk about later, but you're not gonna hallucinate. So these low
Mhm.
doses of psilocybin have been reported to, be taken, so many times in history from the
Mhm.
16th century, and it is one that is being studied a lot now. There's a lot more research coming out about psilocybin and about the benefits and about how it can improve your life. And they say that through the research, a lot of the benefits of psilocybin microdosing are an elevation in mood, enhanced creativity, less need for caffeine. You're more tolerant of others. You might have a greater openness when connecting to others. You're more kind, empathetic. You can tap into a sense of joy, ease, and grace. And so it is really the ability to from a neurological perspective, rewire your brain using neuroplasticity. So, the component in psilocybin promotes your ability to use different neural pathways than what you would normally do. So, this is where kind of, the woo woo meets the science aspect where you're able to rewrite old stories and patterns leveraging psilocybin because you're going to take a new neural pathway. So, say your limiting belief is, you know, um, I'm too much. Maybe that's the belief. I'm too much. Whatever the too muchness is for you, you have a well-trodden neural pathway that says, I am too much. You walk in the room, I am too much. They're not going to like me, I'm too much. And psilocybin gives you the opportunity with conscious awareness to create a new neural pathway that would maybe say, I'm perfect just the way I am, or whatever the affirmation could be. So there's a lot of information on how these new neural pathways and the rewriting of them can be really powerful for your life in a lot of different ways. So
Mhm.
before we got into our conversation, I wanted to make sure that people really understood, what it was and
Yeah.
how it works on the brain, so they could really get a better view of the benefits that we've seen in our process through it.
Mhm. Yeah, there's just this lifting of like all the static and it kind of feels like a super highway when our thoughts are just kind of running the show, and so it just kind of lifts it. And I've just found much more flow in my days where like at the end of the day I'm like it's like it puts me in my true MG state
Mhm.
where I have like kind of this unlimited energy. I'm really like kind of following what is going on, lighting me up throughout the day, and then by the end I'm like it's like that satisfaction
Mhm.
because I also think I'm less distracted when I'm microdosing.
Mhm.
I'm not finding myself on social media as much. I'm not just mindlessly doing things. So I think at the end of the day, I'm less exhausted because I do think
Mhm.
that like makes you so tired.
Yeah, that friction between things and the friction
Mhm.
between checking and scrolling and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that you have access to this joy that you can tap into on a daily basis, and that if you're in your joy, it doesn't mean you're less productive. And I think there's that part of me that's like, okay, if I'm having a lot of fun or if I'm really in joy or if I'm enjoying myself, then am I really working? Am I
Mhm.
pushing hard enough? Am I being productive enough? So understanding that you could have access to this amount of joy on a daily basis was like incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And I've known a lot of people to try microdosing before going on to like medication, kind of
Yes.
if they're experiencing anxiety or depression, having this as an option, not to say that medication isn't a great option. I think it is, but this provides an alternative, maybe on the path, to exploring how you can support your anxiety or depression.
Yeah. I also realized that, the repressing or denying or minimizing of emotions that you have takes a lot of energy psychically, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And that when you allow yourself to feel, it doesn't take very long
Hmm.
and you can move
Yes.
much more quickly than like all of the energy that is draining you. So when we think about how tired people are, I think people are tired all the time. I can be, I've gone through periods where I've been really tired. It's like, what can we check in with? Our caffeine intake,
Mm.
our social media consumption, our sleep schedule. There's so much on like the wellness part of it. And then there's also like the psychic emotional part of it, where it's like, are you holding the container for multiple relationships? Are you psychically spending a lot of energy thinking about one topic or one thing? Are you spending a lot of time repressing emotions that need to be felt? And how
Mhm.
could the allowance of feeling the emotions allow more energy and chi into your body because you're allowing things to really flow?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, I don't know what the stat is, but, like, the length
90
of time,
seconds?
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that, where it's, like, the length of time that you when an emotion is felt, yeah, it just passes so quickly. Yeah, I found that as well, and I also thought it was and I know
It's
you
90-second pause. According to Harvard brain scientist Dr. Taylor, 90 seconds is all it takes to identify an emotion and allow it to dissipate while you simply notice it.
yeah, I mean, that's profound.
Profound.
Think of yeah, I just think of, like, my our parents'
I
generation and
know.
older where it's like, yeah, so much has happened in their lives and, like, the not feeling of it and how it's, like, manifested in their bodies and stuff. It's just it's wild, but yeah. Um, and I also think with microdosing, it's important to intuitively move through this microdosing journey, and what I mean by that is I knew when I needed to take a break. I
Yeah.
knew when I needed to integrate. I knew the cadence at which I was supposed to take it. Because at first I was like going every day.
Mhm.
And that's okay if that feels right for you. But I found that a more measured cadence of like whether it was every other day or every 2 or 3 days um, felt a lot better. And then I noticed like the human part of me be like, but oh God, I didn't microdose today. I'm gonna suck.
Mhm.
Kind of be like
Yes.
that and just noticing
Yes.
what that is and not wanting to be dependent on the feeling
That is like a
when I'm
true
microdosing.
substance experience
Yeah.
because people think about that with drinking.
Mhm.
Who am I going to be when I'm not buzzed?
Yes,
I
yes.
remember when I had my MDMA moment in my life, and I remember being like, you'd be in the moment and be so happy, and then there'd be the thought like, "This is gonna end.
Yeah, gonna calm
Tomorrow,
down.
it's gonna come down," and you have that, like, you're like, "Ah,
Yeah,
who
totally.
am I gonna be without the thing?" That's
Totally.
huge.
Totally. But I think it's important with this to really work with the plant in that way and trust yourself. Because I do, based on what I was kind of guided by our healer and just my own intuition was like, you just need time to allow all that's kind of moved and resituated to like settle. And also a period of time to really trust that you don't necessarily need to be on that all the time, to do that all the time in order to feel the way you felt. So that was important because I definitely in the beginning felt myself being like, I need it today
100%.
in order to
Especially when
be
we were
cool.
recording.
Yeah, dude. We get in crazy vortexes when we were microdosing. We'd look at
Crazy.
each other, be like,
Dude,
ah.
there was times I felt bad for our guests. There was a period actually someone asked I got a DM one time and she was like, "Hey, were you microdosing in X episode?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, I could yeah, I could tell. Like, I don't know if your guest could keep up."
How crazy.
It was insane.
I know.
I always say, and even there was someone that we saw today, the leader of the class that we took,
Uh-huh.
the workout class that we attended. There's an energy frequency that people have when they've done plant medicine,
Mhm.
and you can tell. It's like in their field,
Yeah.
and it's like because you and I were both doing it, our field had the medicine. And so we're kind of getting into this experience where we're like building on each other. I mean, we went to that dinner that one night, and our poor dinner guest, it was me, Lindsay, and someone else
Uh-huh.
having dinner at the proper
Oh my
hotel.
god, yeah.
And we were beyond.
It was
It was like a
crazy.
buildup of microdosing for days,
Yes.
caffeine, and we
Yes.
were like losing our minds
Losing it.
laughing.
It was
It
amazing.
was amazing, but our friend was not, and they were unwell. It was like, "I'm so sorry about
I
this."
know.
But yeah, you had that feeling where we're like, "Yo, we're fucking ripping and rolling. This feels so good." And then, the ego or that part of you, that fear part's like, "Ooh, what about when you don't do this?
Yeah.
What about when this goes
Yeah.
away? You know, that whole thing that and that's kind of probably a neural pathway as well. The
Mhm.
when does this go away,
Mhm.
part that's, like, available for us to always look at.
Yeah. It was important for me to stop. I think I stopped in May or June of this year and just allowed the whole summer to not microdose, and it was actually, like, important because I was like, I'm tempted as I, like, get ready for the wedding to, like, microdose and just be in that. I was like, "No, no, no." Like, you know how to cultivate this, like, joy and flow. But I loved it. I'll probably start again soon,
Mhm,
maybe for, like, a 3-month stint.
mhm.
Um, but I think it's wonderful, and I'm so happy that, like, slowly, slowly but surely it's being more accepted and just kind of dripped into the mainstream and also becoming legal
Yeah.
in certain places. I know it's
That
it's
was a
minimal.
hilarious thing. I did a whole episode on this, and it's illegal most
Yeah.
places. I was like, "Yeah, that's me."
The
I
feds
literally
are
was
at the
like
feds are at the door.
I was like, why are people DMing me so much about this?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that is the most me thing that's ever happened in my whole life, to do a whole episode on something that's legal." I
Totally.
mean, whatever.
You're like, hear ye, come round, come
Yeah,
round."
literally, and I'm, like, starting a side biz. I got an affiliate program for all my little mushies. Yeah, in my experience, so I did started in January 2022, and when did you get engaged? March?
It's November, so I'm trying to think. I thought we started before that.
Maybe
Am I
m
wrong?
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know
I could be
when.
wrong. Who knows?
What's today? I don't know. Sometime I started, and sometime the reason why I'm thinking it's January is because I remember starting at the beginning of the new year and being
Mm.
terrified that
Mhm.
I was never gonna work again. Because at the beginning of the new year,
Yeah.
I was microdosing, and then I was so unmotivated, it was unfucking believable,
Yeah.
that Justin one day was like, "Are you gonna work?" I
Mhm.
was just like it was February before I even got a little bit of motivation, so who knows our timing? Maybe you start who knows, but and I felt really connected, I felt really good, I really loved how it allowed me to feel in the moment,
Mhm.
but there was a period, I think I did it a little bit too long, because at the end, it was what I think from a neurological perspective is that it was actually getting to the really well-trodden neural pathways that needed to be seen, but it was fucking the worst.
Yeah.
It was actually not fun. Like, I was at a few different places and situations, and the mental conversation
Mm.
was so dark,
Mm.
so dark. And I don't go dark much anymore.
Mhm.
I'm able to be playful with myself and, you know, be my bestie, but it was darker than I've ever felt, and I don't know if it was, um, what was going on naturally,
Mhm.
or I don't know because I remember being with friends and feeling this, like, little inner teenager thing where I was like, "I'm left out.
Mhm.
My friends don't like me,
Mhm.
they're hanging out without me." It was very weird, and I'm like, "I've never." And it was
Yeah.
weird because normally I could have had that conversation in my head maybe for a
Mhm.
second, been like, "Oh, yeah, they hung out without me." Like, "Ooh, that's doesn't really feel good." And then I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, well, I had to work all day." Like, "What do you mean?" And I'd be
Mhm.
able to kinda catch it and be like, "All right, we're good."
Yeah.
But it was so obvious and I couldn't hide it on my face.
Yeah.
It was like any feeling had to be visible and seen, and it was almost embarrassing because I was like, "Whoa, I am being a weirdo."
Mm.
And it didn't feel good and it wasn't a good look. And I think it was an important thing to bring up for me to heal, so I think that was the point,
Yep.
is as I progressed with my microdosing, it kinda got deeper and deeper. We went to the deeper and deeper
Totally.
neural
Totally.
pathways
Totally.
to rewire them, but at a point, it was just it didn't feel it was I was
Yeah.
like, "I need a
It's
moment."
like, how do you yeah, what's the move at that point to stop or, it's like it's
Yeah.
good that it's touching on one of the deeper things, I suppose,
Yes.
but it's like you wanna be able to actually work with it rather than be overcome by, like,
Yes.
the anxiety of it.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think now what I would do and I stopped because I needed a break anyway, so I was
Yeah.
just kind of too much was coming up with that and just everything else. And, I think what I would do now is different in the protocol, which would be I would probably include tapping. I would probably include, yeah, I would probably do more things like tapping to move the energy
Yeah.
and kind of tap on things so that I wasn't just kind of allowing it to be because it was getting me swept up in a way that I haven't been swept up in a while, and I was really confused if it was me or if it was the experience. And I definitely think it's something I need to work on healing, that feeling left out, that feeling not loved, experience, that feeling like people are talking bad about me, that inner teen vibe. But yeah, it was really dark. So this is what's interesting about my experience. Microdosing is it's the best. I've had such a beautiful experience, but in the end, I think I probably did it a little too long.
Mhm.
And I realized that it's like not all peachy keen.
Mhm.
It
Totally.
was like not all
Yeah, that's an important point to pick up,
vibes.
to put out there because, yeah, I think, if you're meant to work with psilocybin, plants are incredibly intelligent and intuitive. And just like ayahuasca, which I think is just at a more extreme level, but, you know,
A
she'll
hundred
go there,
percent.
they find it. It's so intelligent.
Yes.
Imagine, like, I kind of see it as like, imagine this plant spirit is being kind of like injected into your body, your emotional body, physical body, whatever, energetic body. And it's like slowly but surely, it's kind of just making its way through the veins
Mhm.
and it like hits certain points and like starts to pulse and just kind of hangs out there. And it's like very um, necessary. So
Mhm.
if you have some stuff that needs to be looked at, I do think that it will absolutely, amplify it. I think for me, one of the ones while I was microdosing was around similar in the friendship realm, but
Mhm.
just being very honest and real about relationships that were no longer
Mm.
healthy or serving me or the other person. It was really like mutual,
Yeah,
which was cool.
you crushed that.
It was cool. I think yeah, I think I'm proud of myself and I also learned from that experience. I think it was like 2 friends, 3 friends actually. No, 2 friends. 2 friends that I had to end the friendship, and
3, it's me.
it's you. Um, that yeah, I want to be able to use my voice more in those moments and be more honest. I think what ended up happening was just a it was clear to me, and so I said what I needed to say and then I cut it rather than allowing for a bit of a conversation. And while I believe that it would have ended anyway, I think I avoided the conversation because of discomfort, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does.
So, I think moving forward, I would like to approach those moments with a bit more groundedness
Mhm.
in how I really feel, hold my ground there, and also soften my heart a little bit so that we can have a real conversation and connection, even if it's ending,
Mhm.
because I don't know if the taste that I left was necessarily true to how I felt, if that makes
I felt it was
sense.
super grounded.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And also, I think that's kind of the mind where it's like or like the feeler, being like,
Totally.
maybe I could have told him
Totally.
nicer or whatever. And like,
Totally.
I don't think
I think I didn't over explain,
oh,
which I
100%.
love, I love that I'm doing that less. But I think there's that part of me that feels bad because 'cause I'm just like, "Oh, do they think I'm a
Yeah,
bitch?"
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you could have done those if last point on this, if you could have done those conversations well, that is master level shit.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
For you you of anybody in the
Yeah, I'm
world are
getting there, but
so good at those. But, like, I mean, for those 2 individuals
exactly, yeah.
and the energetics and what was sort of going on, I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
Ram Dass. You
But
would have
also it
been
was, important for me to practice "This is clear to me,
yes.
and we're done."
Yep, I think that's it. Yeah.
I needed to practice that,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's like the closure thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then also one of the last thing about my journey and one of the reasons why I stopped too is it was like the same with my experience doing Botox where they were like coming in to Botox the
Third eye.
11s or whatever. And it went in my third eye and I said, "Okay, I see
Mhm.
what's happening. We're freezing the third eye." So I was like, "Okay, no more of this." And it was like one day I was just walking and I had my little microdose I was gonna take, and it was like, that's a lot of fungus in your body to be continually taking
Hmm.
fungus every day.
Ooh, I didn't yeah. Wow.
You know, it's like fungus has its own it's almost like you're having this like you have this like being that like could be developing in your body and
Totally.
like could fucking take over your brain.
You
Like
have a whole
honestly,
colony.
yeah, 100%. It's like all of a sudden like I'm turning into like a
Wow,
mushroom
dude.
person.
Yeah, I wonder medically or, like, physically what's because
100%.
I do think it, what's it called? Over time compounds, so
Yeah.
it's, like, in your system, it definitely compounds over time, so yeah, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
very
I
interesting.
know. I was like, no, no. All right, let's get into the questions. Thank you for the
Yeah.
questions that you sent to us on Instagram. So, the first question is, are the benefits for creative people or other people in other spaces? And I want to answer this first because I think you'll have an answer regarding everyone
Mhm.
being creative.
I yeah.
So, I think so. I'm a creative person
Yes.
and I'm also a badass business bitch who girl bosses from noon.
She's a BBB
I'm
baby.
a badass girl boss bitch and I girl boss from 8 a.m. to midnight. And then I take my beauty rest. So when I'm not girl bossing, I'm microdosing. But um I work. So I'm at, there's what we're doing is different, but I'm at a computer.
Mhm.
I'm talking on Zoom. I'm with you know, our people and I'm on my phone. So it's kind of seems sexy and glamorous, and it is a lot of times, thank the Lord, but it is not a lot of times. So
Mhm.
it's not like I was, painting a piece and that was like my work. So I don't think that it needs to be for someone that's creative or not.
Mm-mm.
And I do think it would be really helpful for people that are in the corporate world. And I was in the corporate world for a long time because it's not really focused necessarily on like what can you create in the world and like what kind of creation are you going to do, but it also helps you really look at like your relationships, what's working, what's not. What are some limiting beliefs that you maybe are missing?
Mhm.
And it helps you to see aspects of yourself and your life that you may be missing.
Yeah.
So it helps you to manifest from the soul. It helps you to get clear. It helps you to look at calling in new aligned friendships, success, or creative expression. And so I think all of those things we all want. So it's not really just for like being creative in the way that we understand creativity.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Um, and I think as far as, creativity goes, we're all incredibly creative. Like we are creators. We create our reality, all the things. So I think microdosing is a really beautiful opportunity to set an intention, which I think is a very important part of the process. Set an intention, or maybe one of your intentions is to give more time, energy, and focus to something creative. It doesn't have to be something that is going to make you money or even something that you share. Maybe it's just giving yourself a or allowing yourself to have a practice in the morning or maybe before you go to bed that's just fully creative, maybe inspired by your inner child. Um, and just seeing how that feels. Like I just think it removes the blocks and the resistance to doing something like that. And so I think just the allowing will bring you more joy. It will inspire you in different ways and it might create something that's freaking amazing. Who knows? But I do think we all deserve to be a bit more playful in our creativity rather than feeling like we always have to produce something that is meaningful and impactful and something you have to sell or this or that or anything, which I don't, throw shade on at all because I think that is important too. But I think it really helped me to like create without judging it along the way.
Mhm. That's amazing. Okay. So do you plan to do this forever? Or is it just a season? So what I would say is do it for shorter than what I did. I was talking to um, someone else in the space, and they said to do it for 6 to 8 weeks. 30 days is what Axis Mundi recommends, committing to at least 30 days and taking the first one when you don't have any other commitments. And really your protocol and your rituals really are your practice. So whether
Mhm.
it's 3 days a week and then you have your rituals around it or whatever it is, it's important to do 30 days and not have expectations around it, but it
Yeah.
should be a commitment that you're doing. So I think I did mine too long and I would probably do it again whenever I feel called, maybe in like a few years.
Yep. Totally. Yeah, again, it's very, very intuitive. I don't see myself doing it forever, but,
That was one thing
um
where I was like, I loved it so much. I'm grateful it didn't feel addictive.
I
It
know.
felt the ego for a second was like, "Ooh, I'd love to feel this more," but it never
Mhm.
felt like I need it.
No. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, would you recommend this for someone wanting to be sober or someone that is sober curious? And I think this is like my favorite recommendation for someone
Yes.
that's sober curious.
100 mil.
Although, caveat, if you're going from I don't, this is general. So, it's not for someone who has a drinking problem or is, not drinking for other specific reasons. And I don't want people to go from one sort of substance or altering substance to another. So, checking in like, what's my reason?
Mhm.
Do I feel uncomfortable being sober? And then I'm kind of going to psilocybin to, prevent me from hitting the real reason why I feel uncomfortable being sober.
Mhm.
So being mindful of that. But I do feel like it's something that I really enjoy when I'm going out, to a concert or dinners or weekends, because it just kind of elevates my mood and helps me
Totally.
really connect with people in a heartfelt way. So I suggest it. It's something that works for me, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And I think you have to be really sovereign and mindful, so I'm not recommending it to everyone, I'm just sharing that as my experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just remembering that, if you are hanging out with people who are drinking and kind of using those other substances, like their experience is going to be, you'll still have that feeling of like, oh, wow, okay, I'm not on their level because the microdose is so subtle. However, I feel like you'll get less in the comparison of annoyance of and all of that. So, yeah, I definitely recommend.
Did you feel anxiety microdosing? Said I
Yeah.
I felt a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely had periods of anxiety. It felt purposeful, you know what I mean? Looking back, I guess. I don't know if I realized in the moment. Um, but I think the anxiety would come up for me when it would just kind of hit that little part of me that needed some tending, and the anxiety would come about if I didn't make time or room for it, or if I completely ignored it. Um, So yeah, it's a nice gentle reminder to create that space, to not feel like you have to overanalyze, but just being with it a bit more than you might normally. Maybe you bring it to therapy, maybe you bring it to your journaling practice, maybe you sit with it in meditation, or maybe you have a conversation about it with someone that you love and trust.
What is the one biggest difference that you felt?
Mm.
I would say the less that you push your pain away and all of those parts of you that you stuff down or avoid or numb or lock in the closet, whatever it is, um, and the more you actually feel, and feeling requires being present
Mhm.
and being sovereign enough in your own
Yeah.
energy field to allow yourself to feel. I mean, feeling in the moment is actually it's like again, a master level skill.
Mhm.
Um, but the more that you can do that and the more aligned you are with your highest self, the
Mhm.
more in tune you are with your soul and your inner child, and all of those aspects of you can really exist in a beautiful way. So I think there were moments where it brought up so much for me that forced me to feel it,
Yeah.
that when normally I'd be like, "Oh, no, I'm good on that.
Mhm.
I'm gonna feel that when
Mhm.
I'm, like, on vacation."
Mhm.
I'd, like, schedule my times to feel,
Yeah.
and so it really forced me to look at things.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think for me, it allowed me to let joy in more, which was nice. Which also like increased like the worthiness factor and just yeah, it showed me my capacity for joy and
Mhm.
that it's like ever expanding and I didn't need to be in kind of this uh armor, around the beautiful things happening in my life. So I thought that was really beautiful because, like, life is also hard too, and I think that we can kind of walk around anticipating the hard and the challenging. And not to say that hard is bad because I do believe the contrast is so beautiful and healthy for us. But I realized how much I was keeping out some of the joy that was like right there for me to access.
Mhm. Love that. One of the questions was, what are the most common benefits? So this is from Access Mundi Ceremony, which is a company that Lindsay and I have both worked with. They are really great for providing support for people that want to
Hmm.
learn about microdosing, that want to get started with the protocol. So highly recommend Access Mundi Ceremony. And they write that some of the benefits of microdosing are increased periods of creativity, more tolerant of others. You're able to rewrite your limiting beliefs. You're able to tune into your intuition, receive clarity and guidance from your highest self.
Hmm.
You have a deeper connection to yourself, to nature and the world around you. You have a greater openness when connecting with others. You're more kind, empathetic, and productive in your communication. You have an ability to tune into and honor your needs. You have an increased presence and you have an increased ability to tap into ease, joy, and grace. And then you're able to break free from addictive patterns or toxic thinking or behaviors, which was helpful for me around eating and food. And it's just a mood elevator. So those are
Yeah.
some of the benefits from
Sounds good to me.
microdosing. I know. It's like almost a little much.
Yeah, but it's not going to be all of those
Yeah.
all at once. I think even one of those is pretty fucking
Yes.
amazing.
And it's going to be different for everyone.
Yes.
Another question was, does microdosing actually change the brain? So there's a lot of research on this. I would highly recommend Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind. So in Michael Pollan's book, he shares science of psychedelics related to LSD, ayahuasca, psilocybin, and it's really incredible to learn
Hmm.
all of the information. So
There's a
it
Netflix series as well.
yes, in the
Hmm.
Netflix series as well. So if you're looking for the research in the deep, I would really go there. But psilocybin helps promote neuroplasticity. So this is the growth and creation of new neural connections in the brain. And while under normal conditions, our neurons fire neurotransmitters along these well trodden neural pathways in the brain. And they found that when on mushrooms or psilocybin, these pathways are destabilized. So rather than traveling along these well trodden pathways that we're used to taking, the neurotransmitters tended to take new roads or new pathways to new destinations. So, new research suggests that psilocybin, which is the main active ingredient in mushrooms, sprouts new links across previously disconnected brain regions, temporarily altering the brain's entire organizational framework.
Wow.
So, it really does change the brain in a lot of ways. So, if you're interested in more on that, highly recommend Michael Pollan's book.
Woohoo! We
Woohoo!
did it.
We did it. All right. So these are some resources if you are looking for some. We
Hmm.
highly suggest Access Mundi Ceremony. They're very helpful with courses and programs and helping you with your protocol. Michael Pollan's book, Terrence McKenna's work, like the OG, really powerful. Paul Stamets, the Mushroom Man, his
Hmm.
episode on Joe Rogan years and years
Yeah,
ago
dude.
is one of
Crazy.
the greatest podcasts that's ever
That's
existed.
amazing.
Paul Stamets, anything is incredible.
Hmm.
Timothy Leary is incredible, another OG. And In the Body Keeps the Score. There's research around psilocybin. So those are some resources. And if you have any others, please let us know. If you enjoyed this one, I highly recommend listening to my episode Soul Manifestation, where I talk about how I used my microdosing experience for manifestation, which was really powerful. And if you really, really like microdosing, we've got a daily dose for you
Heck yeah, baby.
at Morning Microdose.
If you want to take a little baby step into the world of microdosing,
Yes,
we have
a legal baby step.
a new podcast called Morning Microdose. Yeah, it was inspired both by like our experience microdosing and having this ability to really prime our minds, our bodies, our souls um, for the day ahead. And so we created this podcast with Vortex moments from the Almost 30 podcast that are just bite sized. So it's 5 to 15 minutes. You can listen to it in the morning, whether it's on your morning walk or maybe you're making your little morning elixir or you're in the bath, maybe. And this is to just put you in that state of inspiration, curiosity, joy. You might laugh a little bit. It might spark something that just makes you think and shift your perspective. So, I think you're gonna love it. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Have at it.
It's the best. You can connect with us on Instagram and TikTok, Almost 30 Podcast. We share clips and resources and Amazing information there. Almost30.com for all of our courses and programs. If you want to be a podcaster and want our support, we got you. And then we also have partner information there as well. And then it's Krista on Instagram.
I'm at Lindsay Simsick. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for your questions and just for being an incredible part of our community. We will see you on the next one.